Okay, the next thing, you might be asked a question on hospitals, okay? You might have to compare hospitals in 2 different time periods, or you might have to look at how progress was made in terms of treatment in hospitals, etc. So we're going to look at all 4 time periods. Start off with the medieval period, 1250 to 1500, 13th, 14th, 15th century. So, run by the church. What's really important to know about hospitals is they were not for treatment. They weren't there. You weren't there to go and get cured. It was all about going along. You'd be given a bed to sleep in. You might be given a meal, but you would be prayed for by the monks and nuns that run those hospitals. They were run by the church. So religion, remember, dominating medicine at this time. So the focus was on care, not cure. Treatment was mostly based around religion, but it was clean. One thing to note, not everyone could access hospitals. If you were a pregnant woman, you would be turned away, and they also turned away people with infectious diseases. Okay, so hospitals are mostly run by the church during the medieval period. Then we've got the Renaissance period, 1500 to 1700, so you're talking about the 16th and 17th century. We have a big change here in the sense that the churches no longer really control hospitals at this point. Remember Henry VIII, the dissolution of the monasteries, he closes down all of the monasteries, and that therefore means that the hospitals are closed down as well, which means that the remainder are run by charities, and they are mostly all located in London. So if you lived in any other part of the country, you wouldn't be able to access hospital in terms of going along. So you've got very few hospitals left after the dissolution of the monasteries. Right, let's have a look at the industrial period, so 1700 to 1900, or the 18th and 19th century. By 1700s, you have got more focus on treatment in hospitals. Physicians would have gone around the hospital. They would have looked at kind of people's symptoms. They would have encouraged different treatments. There would have been apothecaries inside the hospitals where you would have been able to access treatment. However, there is limited access. Only really the deserving poor would be allowed to access these hospitals. As the century went on, as hospitals became more popular to visit, they became dirtier and more crowded, until the only woman named on our specification, Florence Nightingale. Remember, she went over to the Crimean War. Infection rates were extremely high when she first got there. And she looked at the dirty conditions of the hospitals. She made huge changes, not only to the design of hospitals, so making sure that everything was wipeable, all the surfaces, but also making sure that nursing became a proper, respectable profession. So she had a massive impact in terms of hospitals themselves. She brought all of those changes back to the UK. So she wrote a book called Notes on Nursing. She set up her own hospital. She would train nurses as well. If we move on to the next time period, then modern time period. Remember, guys, you lived during this time period, 1900 to the present day, 20th, 21st century. Use your own experiences. You've been to hospitals before, you've seen them. Remember, ideas about germ theory, these have now been accepted. So back in the industrial period, Louis Pasteur obviously made his germ theory discovery, but it took decades for that to be accepted. You've now got in the 20th century that is being fully accepted by people, and it is leading to the idea that hospitals have to be clean places. Aseptic conditions, germ-free environment, okay, so no germs allowed into the hospitals, no germs allowed into the operating theatres. There is advanced technology now being used in both the diagnosis and treatment of patients. So if you've watched the other videos, you'll have heard us talk about things like blood tests, different scans, x-rays, but also the treatment that the hospitals use as well. 1948, remember, the NHS is introduced, and this allows access to all. So all people, whether you are rich or whether you are poor, are able to go and seek treatment and care from the hospitals.